8 years ago, yesterday, January the 8th, I sat in my car and I had a laptop, which I still have over there on the unfinished side of the basement. I took the laptop and I plugged my little headset microphone into it because it's the only portable microphone I had at the time. I pulled up Adobe Audition, and after some fiddling, because it wouldn't record straight through, that was just too much to ask, I sat down and predicted the 2016 NFL playoffs. And that was how Hyphen Nation was born. That was January 8th, 2016. And now, it's 2024. Let's see. Big thing off the bat in 2016. We were going into an election. And I was sure, I was positive Hillary Clinton was going to be our next president. And the funny thing is, as I end Hyphen Nation, because yes, you're listening to the last episode of Hyphen Nation, the Barack Obama approved world's greatest podcast, Hyphen Nation. As you watch this, just as that was an election year, we're now going into another election year. And by the end of this year, it could have the very same result that 2016 had. And at least I know to clench my butt cheeks beforehand. With that said, welcome to the Barack Obama approved world's greatest podcast. I am your host, the one, the only, Kellen Conley, aka B Hyphen. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody feeling tonight? I hope y'all feel fantastic. I'm full. I had a nice pasta dinner. So as I speak to you, I have a belly full of pasta. And as we continue on into this episode, I know I'm doing the right thing this time. But first, without further ado, you know, like I know, that there's only one thing that needs to happen at the start of Hyphen Nation. So for the very final time, because I'm not carrying this over to the Hyphen Universe show, Morgantown weather reports. So it is 50 degrees outside. Kind of unbelievable, but it's 50 degrees outside. It is clear, and looks like there's going to be some light rain, likely around 3 a.m. So maybe changing to snow by 5 a.m. Oh, and it's supposed to snow until like 2 p.m. So, but it's we'll see, we'll see. When tomorrow, 39 degrees is going to be the high. Snow showers. Says there's a chance about a 0.08% precipitation, so we might get a little snow. But looking at the 10-day in my birth month, shout out to my Capricorns. Of course, I'm an Aquarius because I'm after the 20th, so ain't no sign greater. It's looking rough, man. We got snow on Wednesday, 46 Thursday, rain on Friday, snow on Saturday, clear on Sunday, snow on Monday, Tuesday. I just absolutely love that the winters now wait for January to just let loose, because it always sucked as a child, because we would get some snow October, November, December, But it always sucked as a child because as soon as January hit and having a January birthday, that's when it's like, yeah, this is good. And you just dump all the snow out. So, yeah, you're listening to the final episode of Hyphen Nation. And the first thing I got to say, I announced this, what was it, 2 episodes ago? Was it 213 I did that? I announced it. First thing I got to say is why? Why is now the time to end Hyphen Nation? So, let's take it back. Episode 149, which is on my list of my favorite episodes. I have a whole list that I'm going to go through. Episode 149, The Race to Black Enough Mountain. I sat in this very basement. Matter of fact, I probably laid on the floor of this basement, propped up against my old couch. And in my old Galaxy S9, I plugged in my little microphone adapter. And I told a story about how my whole life, because of being raised in West Virginia, how I didn't feel like I was black enough and everything that came with that. And when I finished it, I knew it was a fantastic episode. Toot, all that stuff. I knew it was a fantastic episode. And I arguably, solo, it's probably the best podcast episode I recorded out of all 214 of these joints. Not this one, not included, obviously. All the other pods I've been on and been a part of, had the honor to be a part of. Let me paraphrase. It's the best solo podcast ever recorded by myself. And that came out in 2020, I believe, is when that came out. I'm not looking it up. It was either 2019, 2020 when I dropped that. And I think it was 20, Black Enough Mountain. It was 20, it had to be like 2019, 2020, because shortly after that was when the pandemic happened. So let's say it was 2019. I knew I had peaked at that moment. And I knew that all the other podcasts, as I swipe away that cobweb, all the other podcasts that I've done over the years, I knew that it was never going to be that good again. Which is crazy, but if y'all know me at all, from all these episodes, y'all know I dabble in a little bit of everything. I rap, I write, I podcast, I do YouTube, those are big 4. But I can do a little computer stuff, I can do video editing, audio editing. I just like to have my hands in all kinds of things. So everything that I recorded on Hyphen Nation up until that point was leading to that moment. And when that moment happened, I was scared. Because I didn't see it as mastering the craft of podcasting or anything. I just knew that topic was so near and dear to my heart that the rest of that anything I tried to do after would not meet that mark that I set on 149. And I was scared. I was like, how can I just go and do more podcasts after this, knowing that I've recorded this incredible piece of work about my life that's meaningful and deep to me, and people commented on and told me how much they really enjoyed the episode. I haven't re-listened to that episode to this day. And it's something I want to take the time to do at some point this year. I think I started it, but I haven't finished it. And when that happened, I knew that I was ready to pivot. I just didn't know how to pivot. So let me paint a picture for you. So at the time, Hyphen Podcast Group, shout out to the gods, bringing great podcasts to the people, hyphenpodcastgroup.com, all that jazz. Hyphen Podcast Group had my show. I don't know if Cat and Mark had started yet, or maybe they were very early on when this happened. Because I feel like they started late 2019, and they just had their 150th show, and I was on it. I got to talk about Dreamgirls and Devil Wears Prada. Mark Robbie really do love me. I was listening to the episode some more today, and it's absolutely fantastic. The editing is top-notch. Mark Robb is top-notch. I'm fine. But go check that out on the We Should Do This Again sometime with Cat and Mark feed. It's amazing. Had Isla Pal. It's like a podcast or whatever, so that's 3. Had Frightful Fret with Melisette. Had insert podcast name here, insert name here with Obvious Nonsense. So that's 5. Browns in Our Blood had Wrapped, I believe, that year. We had a podcast called Fresh, and we had I Black Man podcast. So that's 8. And we still had Catch the Show and Underground Monster. And I don't know if he had morphed it into what it became, but that's 9 shows right there. So since the inception of Hyphen Nation in 2016, and since the inception of Hyphen Podcast Group in 2017, I had grown this family of podcasts that I thought all of them were pretty spectacular. And so my thought process was, I don't need to have my own show anymore. I have said everything that I think I can say on Hyphen Nation, so I need to just end it cleanly, and then I need to focus on these other shows, on really pushing them more, and trying to grow the Hyphen Podcast Group brand where it could possibly be profitable. That was what I told myself. So I messaged Maps, and I told him my plan, and he said he was with it. But he said, he's like, yo, I don't think you really mean it. You might want to think about it a little bit more, but if this is how you honestly feel, I got you. He did the intro of the pod. Maps, I hope you and the family are well. And then I sat down the following week. I think I was still doing two a week then, maybe. Doing the Sunday, Wednesday, whatever the release schedule was then. Which is the reason I have 215 episodes, because I went bi-weekly. How many car pods did I do, man? I apologize for the car pods, okay? The car pods were cool because it allowed me to record while being mobile and knock out some good stuff. And I know there's a good chunk there's a lot of car pods. There's pods where I drove home. There's pods driving to Pittsburgh with Angel. And I know the sound quality wasn't great, but I appreciate y'all bearing with me, okay? Well, I gave up car pods a couple years ago, but I mean, I was really ripping and running when it came to pods back then, man. So then I sat down and I was going to do it was like the very last episode, 2019, one of the last ones, because I did, or one of the early 2021s when this happened, because I did the State of the Podcast address, which is what I would kind of be my first podcast of the year. I did 3 of them joins, something like that, where I would just kind of outline plans and look at numbers from last year and how well all the episodes did. And I'd already gathered all my numbers and stuff for the pod. So I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden, halfway through the show, I'm like, but I'm quitting the pod. Here's why. And I cried. I cried the whole way through. And the reason I cried is because as good as 149 was, I truly love podcasting still. And the idea that I was walking away from what essentially was my baby that I had grown from episode 1 up to 150 at that point, the idea that I was going to walk away was devastating to me. So as much as I felt like I had peaked, I still wanted to do it. So, a la Peter Parker in Amazing Spider-Man 50, when Peter quit being Spider-Man and threw his costume in the trash, and Melisette just said Julie Pierce is rumored to be coming to Cobra Kai. She would die, so that would be crazy. I'm excited for the next season of Cobra Kai, even though they tied a nice little bow on the end of it just in case they got canceled. But I'm excited for more Cobra Kai. Yeah, there's an episode we're talking Cobra Kai with Melisette. You need to go check that out. But I just love podcasting too much. So just like he threw his costume in the trash and was going to quit and not be Spider-Man anymore, forego the great power and responsibility bit, that was going to be my plan. That was what I was going to do. Except I wasn't foregoing the power and responsibility. I was moving my power and responsibility to something else. That was what I was telling myself, at least. Where's my chat? There we go. Okay. That's what I was telling myself. And I recorded it, and it was literally sitting there waiting to be put out. And I talked to the girls and told them, and Aaliyah she wasn't even 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19. So she turned 4 in 2020. She wasn't even 4 yet. And I told her and Angel I was quitting the podcast. And Angel's like, why? And Aaliyah's like, don't stop your podcast. And I was like, oh, well, this is why. And Angel's like, if you still love it, you should still do it. I was like, I know, but I already did it. And I don't want to walk it back. But I think I slept on it one more night. And then at some point in the car with Aaliyah, I finished off episode by saying, all that crying and stuff I did in the podcast, I'm actually going to continue. So let's continue on. And then I did. And so from 151 to 215 is what you got. I am not ashamed to say that the front half of the Hyphen Nation run, I feel like it's way better than the back half of the Hyphen Nation run, because obviously COVID happened, and then I feel like I have some good episodes, but just looking at my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 episodes from the back half of the run. From the front half of the run, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that tells you how much I value the front half. Because what I should have done is never drop 150 the way that it exists today. I should have just never put it out. But I did. And so I feel like, granted, the listener base isn't that big, but I just felt like by doing it the way I did, that I had completely cheapened the pod. It was like my finger poke of doom. Shout out to my wrestling fans who get that reference. And I never truly felt like I recovered from it. Yes, the pod continued. Yes, I had a lot of fun still recording the pod. But I always felt like I cheapened the legacy of the pod by having 150 exist in its current form. So the moment I decided to not put it out, because it came out with the addendum on there. It's not like I put it out, then I was like, oh, by the way, I don't think. I don't think I did that. I should have never put out 150. And then maybe we wouldn't be sitting here today, because I had this dark cloud of this episode hanging over my head this entire back half of the run, where it's like man, if somebody ever got into the podcast and really want to go in the archives, they'll be confused as fuck and probably want to quit the pod. Oh, there's a cuss word. And quit the pod if they, you know, listen to episode 150. You'll be like, what the hell? Did he quit? Then he's like, oh, he didn't quit? Why am I going to listen to this dude? What is this? So, yeah. This episode sponsored by water. Keep sending them checks, water. So, I continued on. And I still had fun doing the pod. But I never got over that I was dumb enough to put 150 out as is. And then I recorded all these other episodes since. Now that's a major thing. I just wanted to explain out one more time what occurred at that time and explain how it's kind of hung over my head, because I never really said that to anyone. The past couple of years, man, COVID came in, was home. I got streaming stuff. I could broadcast live. I could come on here and do the pod on a regular basis. And it just became, for a while there, especially after COVID, like COVID up until everything I did like halfway through 2022 was such a slog for me. And the pod wasn't coming out consistently. The number of episodes was dropping yearly. And because I wasn't dedicated to doing the pod on a consistent basis, the quality was never where I wanted it to be, truly. Now, once I kind of reconfigured things in 2022 and made it more about the music and really focusing on, okay, this episode is about music, but then we're going to throw in this comic book thing and not being so much reacting to things that was happening. Because Hyphen Nation's always been a potpourri podcast. So you come on here, you never know what you're going to get. And I was always constantly talking about this movie came out and this came out and this happened in the news. Did you hear about this? And just giving people reactions. And it worked. It worked really well. Plus, I was giving you nostalgia and I was still doing music stuff. I had the great synergy with Mark Robb as well as my other guests when they came on. But because I wasn't able to create that same consistency that I had once COVID hit, and then especially once I'd miss a couple weeks, miss a month, miss 2 months, miss 3 months. And then I'm sitting here in January and I'm like, hey, welcome back to Hyphen Nation. Da-da-da-da-da. It's just not fair to anyone, especially as a podcast listener. And I knew, damn, that was loud. I knew that I wasn't living up to my potential as the host of this podcast. It wasn't what I built it to be. Now, obviously, life is going to life, as it always does, and it often has throughout the history of this podcast. But I made an effort to be consistent with it. But then after COVID, and you would think that with having all this stuff and being able to just come out here and do whatever I need to do when I have to do it, it was tough, man. Like before, it was like, all right, it's 11 o'clock. Let me go record this pod. And I'd sit down here and just solo pod for an hour and a half. And then I'd edit it up and then I'd go to bed at 2. And then I'd go to work the next day and be tired, but then I'd be fine. But now, the thought of being up that late to podcast, it kills me. And even it's like, oh, well, I could get up early and record. Man, when I get up in the morning, I just want to have my coffee, maybe play a little Marvel Snap. If it's early enough, maybe cook a little something for lunch, relax, have that quiet time before it's time to start getting ready for my day. I don't want to come down here on a Wednesday morning at 6 in the morning and talk into a microphone for 40 minutes, 60 minutes, and I had to turn around and go upstairs and get Aaliyah up and then start my day. I can't do it. I can't do it. Look, could I do it? Sure. And honestly, in order for that to work, I'd have to get up at 4. I wake up at 5 now. Most of the time I wake up at 5, Monday through all week. I wake up at 5 usually. I'd never turn off my alarm at this point. And I'd have to wake up at 4, use the bathroom, get my coffee, wake myself up, come down here, plug in, all that stuff. Don't necessarily have to be streaming, but these are the things I have to do. And then I have to be prepared to do the show. And then I have to sit myself down and do the pod. And then not try to be like, because they'll be upstairs sleeping. So I can't be like, Morgantown weather report. Because there's a few episodes back where I kind of did that on a Saturday morning. And it worked. It worked really well. But I still feel like I was holding myself back. And for a while there, it kind of worked with my schedule where if I took some closing shifts during the week, I could record the pod before I went to work, and that kind of worked. But I hate doing closing shifts, and I don't have to take the closing shifts, so I don't take the closing shifts. So just watching the fall of the consistency, and yes, I think everything from 186 on, I feel like are really good episodes. I do truly feel like I found something that really worked, that I was happy with to sit down and do when I sat down and do it. The problem was motivating myself to come down here. Matter of fact, I literally was up there watching the Cat Williams interview because I haven't watched the full thing yet. I might be an hour in at this point. And eating my dinner, and I'm sitting there, it's warm upstairs, sitting here like this, chilling. And I was like, damn, maybe I don't need to go downstairs and record this podcast. But I did, because Hyphen Nation deserves a proper finale. So I'm righting wrongs by doing this. I am putting a neat bow on this 8-year period of my life where I have done this show. And I'm moving on to bigger and better ideas in my mind. Hyphen Nation needs to end because my energy is being drawn other places. And Hyphen Nation has suffered because of that. But by being able to put a nice ending to it, I have this 8-year collection of these pods where I got to talk to people that I call family as well as true family about all kinds of topics, and laugh a lot and cry a lot and vent a lot, and really be in a safe space where I could be authentically myself. And I don't want to lose. I don't want to say lose. I don't want to downplay that part of Hyphen Nation. But I also know that Hyphen Nation isn't needed to be the vehicle that it's been in the past anymore for me. There's other ways to do it. So now is the right time to end Hyphen Nation. I also realized as I prepared myself in the month since I announced this episode was coming, I realized that in January 2016, I was literally 2 months out, 3 months out from losing. No, well, it was really, honestly, it was, 2 months out from having just lost both my moms. So Hyphen Nation was originally conceived to kind of be what Victory Jump Off Radio was, where once I got Victory Jump Off Radio accidentally on iTunes at the time, Apple Podcasts now, because I was trying to help Elliot Wilson get his Thorough podcast on there. And I was like, let me submit the Victory Jump Off feed. And they accepted it finally. After when I first started back in 2008, they're like, no, you can't put this up as a podcast. And then in 2016, they're like, or 15, they're like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. I was like, what the hell? It was originally supposed to be Hyphenation was going to be part music podcast where there would be music episodes, and then also then in between there would be actual podcast episodes where I would do something similar to what it became. And I tried it, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. So I moved the first episode, which was the Biggie episode, to Victory Jump Off feed and put it over there. And then I finally sat down in January 2016 to record the pod. Now, it took me a while to even talk about them on the pod. It was like the 20th in the 20s somewhere where I'm pretty sure I explained everything that happened to me the year before, the first time. And I'm not going to rehash it. I feel like I've told everybody in the world this sad story about my mom's. My sad story about losing my mom's. And I realize now the Hyphenation became a form of therapy for me. And yes, the meme goes around saying that men don't go to therapy, they start podcasts. For those of you not watching on YouTube, if you are watching on YouTube or on Twitch, follow, subscribe over on Twitch. If you're watching me on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, you never miss a notification, all that stuff. I'm that guy. I literally, unbeknownst to me at the time, started this podcast as a place where I could come to and vent my feelings on different things. Now, it wasn't a grief podcast. There was times I was grieving on the podcast. Plenty of times I've done that. But I definitely am that meme. I definitely am that meme. And it's wild. Because, like I said, man, every week, sometimes twice a week, I would pull out my little recorder on the phone at the time, turn it on, and I would just go, man, on whatever topic just felt, whatever came to mind, whatever I felt like was relevant. And I had a blast, man. I had such a blast recording the pod. Such a blast. Which is why it deserves a proper ending, but then also it needs to be spun out into something different, which is what I'm doing here. So, what does what is that? That's 30 minutes, roughly. So, hopefully you get a good picture from that of why the pod's ending. As far as Hyphen Podcast Group goes, it will remain. I'm going to switch up the site a little bit to kind of just feature the pods that are active right now, which will be, we should do this again sometime, the Shredhead Pod, Rasslecast Power Hour, the Howard Stern Buzzsaw Show, and whenever she's ready, when Melisette comes back, it'll be Melisette's Pod. Or if Obvious Nonsense comes back too. I mean, Alejandra, whatever, man, come back. Come back, girls. It'd be cool. But nah, for real. It'll still be those pods. When an episode drops, I will still post it to the social medias. I'll still make sure it's available. And that's what it is, man. I'm just as long as they're willing to still do the pods and be under the banner, I'll continue pushing it, man. So, hyphenpodcastgroup.com, that's where it will remain. Nothing is changing there other than the site's going to get a little tweak here eventually when I get around to it. So that will continue until they don't want to be around me no more. And I mentioned that I talk to friends who are like family now, like Mark Robb, man. Mark Robb. We always just knew each other in passing, man. We had a mutual connection when he first started college. That's how we knew of each other. And then somehow we started following each other on social media, like Tumblr and definitely on Twitter. And we would always go back and forth. We'd always have like these fun little links on Twitter, man, like talking about different things. Always commenting on each other's stuff. I'd see him out. I'd be like, yo, Mark Robb, what up? And he waving me, man. Little did I know that he probably could have used the ride, but I ain't know. And then y'all know the story. Like got to talk about Kendrick's Pimp Brother Butterfly versus Damn on Twitter, and he's like he's one of the first people along with Handsome Bane and Lamarique, man. Handsome Bane, Eric Greenlee, my very first guest who came on. They came on the pod, and he was like, he's like, yo, they all three of them. They told me they dug the pod. They liked the pod. That's what they said. And then Mark Rob was like, hey, I could come over and be on your pod. And I was like, yeah, sure. And so literally, as Aaliyah slept upstairs, he came over, brought some beer. We sat down here, and the Rockets playoff game was on when James Harden blew it against the Spurs, I want to say, that year. So that would have been 2017 playoffs when they completely collapsed in the playoffs. So he played for the Rockets. And we sat here and kicked it, man. And we just had an immediate spark, man. And the people I have met through Hyphen Podcast Group and formed bonds with and have spent hours with, looking in the cameras, or with Mark Rob talking into a iPad, because that was the only way I could get our podcast to record on Skype, was with the iPad. I wouldn't change any of it. And me and Eric and Lamb and Mark Rob, we sat on a call for at least 2+ hours one night trying to all record together. And for the life of me, I could not get any of my equipment to record. Couldn't get a connection. Probably because I was running Wi-Fi downstairs and I wasn't smart enough to realize that it was because my signal wasn't working down here. And that was what was blocking the Wi-Fi. That's when my computer would sit up right here downstairs, right next to the bathroom door, is where the original desk was. And I had my big old Dell TV monitor my dad gave me, and I had my little laptop plugged into it. And that was how I did it, man. That was how I did it for a long time. And God, I can't remember when the basement really changed. I mean, we took out the couches and the love seat and stuff in 2021, I believe. 2020 when we did all that. Oh, I know why I came out, because we got the carpet down here before somebody left his door behind them unlocked and water came in during a real bad rainstorm. But I don't know who that could have been. Wasn't me. Surely not. But the bonds I forged are forever, man. So, and it's even evident in that in the We Should Do This Again Sometime pod I was just telling y'all about with me and Mark Rob, because we definitely, I don't know what the total count of hours we've spent actually that's released from the pod, but me and this guy, man, we were like peas and carrots. Me and Jenny were like peas and carrots again. When we get together and we get to talking, man, it just starts free flowing. We have a beautiful synergy, and I keep bringing up that word, but it's fitting. So, yeah, and same thing with Lamb and Eric. Anytime we all get together, it's just jokes and good time, man. Shout out to the Brain Trust. Shout out to the Diamond Dogs, man. Because honestly, if it wasn't for Mark Rob, I may have quit after I lost my job for real, because I was not. Back in when I lost my job with that one bank, I don't know if I said their name on the pod. When I lost my job at that one bank, and I landed on my feet and I was able to get back to my old job that I had when I started the pod. But man, I was kind of lost there. I was like, man, maybe I like, and the pod had suffered. The pod had actually suffered because I had taken that new job, and it just slowly, like the output got slower and slower as time went on. Because I want to say I got the job in summer of 2016, and I got fired on May 1st, I want to say, 2017. And so everything had just kind of, I had gotten a couple episodes out, but it definitely slowed my momentum. And after I got fired, I was like, it would not have surprised me if I had never really come back to it. But, I sat down and told everybody what happened, and then Mark Rob's like, hey, you want to talk about this new Jay-Z album? I was like, hell yeah, I want to talk about a new Jay-Z album. And we were back up shortly after that. So, what am I pivoting to, though? Now, let's go ahead and address that. So, you may have noticed, I don't think I've mentioned it on the pod on here before. I do have a new podcast, which is very early in its infancy. It's called the Hyphen Universe Show. And it's exactly the same vibes that you get from Hyphen Nation. So, only difference is it's going to come out on Wednesdays. It probably won't be out this week. So we're looking at next Wednesday the 17th for coming back for 2024. It's only supposed to be 20 minutes long. That's it. So whatever I feel I want to bring to the table for that 20 minutes, that's what you get. I come in, say what I want to say, step back, try to need a little bow on it, post it on YouTube, post it on Facebook, put the audio on the podcast feeds. That's it. That's what the Hyphen Universe Show is. It is it's Hyphen Nation, just not in the longer form anymore. Because as y'all can tell, over recent years, we went from a guaranteed hour plus on most episodes to 45 to an hour usually. I don't think I've let's say 35 to an hour. I may have some episodes that's that short, but that's all it took, because another thing I was beating myself up about on the back half of the pod was trying to fill that runtime. And yes, I had a segment called Fill That Runtime. That was for like 10 minutes when I was trying to get from 50 minutes to an hour. Not for, I've talked about this and oh crap, it's only 36 minutes in and I want to pod for a whole hour and I got to figure something out. I was really having trouble trying to figure out what was going to sustain the pod for an hour. And because by that point, this is in the 2020s, obviously. I had said so much over the course of 16, 17, 18, and 19 that by the time I got to 20, 21, and 22, before I switched up the format, I felt a little gassed, a little bit like Jimmy Butler in Game 6. That was me. I am him. Absolutely, man. So, yes, the spirit of Hyphen Nation will continue on to the Hyphen Universe Show. It's supposed to come out weekly on Wednesdays. I'm not, of course, holding myself to that. But I'd like to be consistent where you can get at least 4 episodes of that a month, especially at only 20 minutes. Because literally, that's come downstairs, hook everything up, 20 minutes, stop the recording, convert the stuff to wave, chop up the wave, throw the intro on there, throw the outro on there. It's only 20 minutes, so I don't even put I need to start putting the, when I come back, I'm going to start putting the little ads for other Hyphen podcast group shows on the front. But then, after that, set the video to render, and then go do whatever I'm going to do. And then come back once the video's done, upload it everywhere, and then it all come out simultaneously. That is the whole idea of Hyphen Universe Show. And I've enjoyed it so far. I'm finding my footing. And really what it is, it's just me coming in and be like, hey, this is what I'm in. This is what I want to talk about. I'm into this thing. And yeah, if it goes a little longer, that's fine. When I have a guest, you might get, if Mark Rob comes on, you're going to get an hour. You're guaranteed an hour if Mark Rob comes on. I still want to do guests, and I want to have those longer conversations still. I don't want to put myself in that box. But when it's me, I'm happy with just doing a good 20 minutes. Just like when I do a set and I'm rapping, I'm happy with doing a great 10-minute set versus trying to do a mid 20-minute set, because I'm going to run out of air. My voice is going to start cracking, and I'm going to not have the same energy that I had in the first 10 minutes for the back 10 minutes. So I'm condensing for quality reasons when it comes to the Hyphen Universe Show. But that's what's next. So that is what I'm pivoting to as far as podcasts go. I'm still on Rasslecast. We are on the back half of season 4. because of the gymnastics meet schedules. I'm probably not going to be able to get up with them until February again. But I just recorded a pod the other day about why The Rock came back right now, and he's ruining everything. So nobody likes that. I definitely am not a fan. Oh, by the way, since the last Hyphenation, let me go ahead and announce the winner of the 2023 Wrestler of the Year. Something I've been doing since 2016. Because let's see if I remember them all. So 2016 was Cody. 2017 was Jericho. Or was or no, 2017 was Jericho. 2018 was Becky. 2019 was Kofi. 2020 was did I do McIntyre in 2020? 22 was Sammy. 21 was I can't remember. I definitely feel I want to say I picked Drew in 2020, Drew McIntyre. In 2021, I can't quite remember, but it's in the archives. It's in the archives. It's out there for the whole world to see, I promise. So the 2023 Wrestler of the Year is Rhea Ripley. That is my choice for Wrestler of the Year. Congratulations, Rhea. I will continue the tradition on the Hyphen Universe show. The Wrestlecast named Gunther as the Wrestler of the Year. I was not part of that conversation. I was part of the voting, but not part of that pod, unfortunately. But Mark Robb and Handsome Bane and Miraculousness and Funky Punk. Damn, I'm getting choked up. Funky Punk held me down. I think I need some water. So there you at least have that. But yeah, it's going to be the same thing, just shorter content, more quality content in that 20 minutes, and then it goes out there in the world, and that's that. And then I'll come back and do it again, hopefully next week. That's what the Hyphen Horror show is all about. So next Wednesday, I'm hoping to have the episode out. Don't quote me, because y'all know how life be lifing. For sure. So now we're at the portion of the show where I just want to kind of talk about some of my favorite moments. And I made a list. Y'all aren't going to see that because of these bright ass lights. Let me hold it as close as possible. There you go. Yeah, but because now I messed up my light. Oh, there I go. I'm starting to come back into the picture. I made a list of all my favorite episodes. I went through all 214 of them. And honestly, I love them all because obviously I created them all except for one, which is on this list. But I can't not mention that it exists, obviously. So all of them are near and dear, but these are my favorite episodes of Hyphen Nation. The first one, obviously. I mean, literally sitting in the Kroger parking lot. Cold. Car turned. Maybe the car was on. The old Stratus. Maybe the car was on. Cold. Green jacket. Talking into a headset microphone. Talking about the NFL playoffs. And I was wrong. I was definitely pulling for Cam that year. And it went the Broncos' way. But it is what it is, I suppose. Now, all the episodes in between there were me finding my footing. There was more car pods. I was recording in the car that way up until the early 20 when I got to like episode it was definitely somewhere in the 20s where I stopped going to the laptop and taking the laptop in the car and trying to record in the car. The quality just wasn't holding up. And you know, it's I mean, let's take a little peek here. Let's see if I can get it to come back without it being a pain in my butt. Okay, cool. So if we go to the very end, just these names of these episodes. Well, the first three were about the NFL playoffs. Number 4, there will be no sport ball talk within. And then number 5, another football, predicting the Super Bowl. The case of the stale fudge rounds and cherry Pop-Tarts. Welcome to the Disney Movie Review Podcast, which is the reason that Daughters, Dads, and Disney happened. I Feel Petty, one of my best titles. Knock on Wood. And then episode 10 is the next one on this list, which is Book to the Future, first LP, side A, co-starring Eric Greenlee, where we talked about everything that was happening in the WWE at the time. And Prince had literally just died, and we talked about that a little bit. And then, we did some fantasy booking. So number 10, and my first guest, Eric Greenlee. Shout out to you, brother. And I forgot. He was on 2 episodes because we were able to break it up. Because no, we didn't break. I think this is a separate recording. I forgot he was on back to back. So 10 and 11 actually was really good because I think 11 is when we were talking about what Civil War. That's the first MCU episode right there, is us talking about Civil War. So again, Trailblazer. Episode 12, the first Daredevil, Deadpool, Jessica Jones episode, man. There's 3 of them joints out. I just did one within the last 15 episodes. I don't know what I'll do with that idea, because I definitely like sitting here and just making up some crazy stories about Wade Wilson and Jessica Jones, man. So more than likely, I'm going to have to bring that over to the Hyphen Universe show. So that's just fun, though. Just taking my fan fiction brain and applying it to the microphone and just telling a story as it comes to me in my head. It's a lot of fun. I really love it. And the fact that I still can do it as well as I did before. Like, I messaged Lamb right after I finished the last one. I was like, Lamb, I did another Deadpool Jessica Jones episode. He's like, cool. I was like, what do you mean cool? You love those episodes. It's like, I do love it, but I'm just saying it's cool. I can't wait to hear it. I'm like, all right, Lamb, whatever. Probably never listened to it. Hater. Then everything was kind of chill for a little bit. I moved into the current house, but then episode 17, that's when Philando and Alton Sterling got killed. Philando Castile and Alton Sterling got killed. So that was my first time coming on and really talking about police brutality and its effect on the black community. And I'm proud of that episode because I didn't think I had that in me. I had no clue. I just wanted to come on and do my little podcast, and this is the first time I was like, you know what? I really have some things to say on this topic, and I'm going to come out and say them. So that was a great, absolutely great episode. I love being able to do that. What is going on with my feed here? Bloop. Let me check everything out. Yeah, I'm still broadcasting. There I am. Sorry. I had to check the feeds. I'm streaming right now because it's the last episode and I wanted to stream. So, sorry. Sorry, I'm checking my stuff. Whatever. Y'all be all right. But, yeah, I was extremely proud of that episode. Then I had some notable things, like I talked about the election. I had my sister-in-law, Nikki, on. Nikki was my second guest. And we had a great time. We recorded that at Ogilby in Wheeling, West Virginia. At Ogilby, I won't call it a hotel, Ogilby Resort, whatever they call it. It's where they do this immaculate Christmas-like display every year. And her mom liked to take the family up there at the time before we started switching venues in recent years. And we sat down in their room, which is her and her brother's room. And because Aaliyah was real little then. So Aaliyah was 2 by then. And I think that was her second year going. I don't remember how she slept. I know the first year we took her, she slept like trash. And I tried to keep her all night. And I slept like trash, man. We were both exhausted the next day. There's a picture of her where she literally is falling asleep with her head dropped because she's just so exhausted from being miserable in the hotel room the night before. From there, Episode 30, the first questions episode, I never had the listenership to like just say, send me questions, and then everybody send me questions. So I got a big old Facebook group full of a whole bunch of people I know who would give me questions, and I cultivated that not once, not twice, but 3 times. And all 3 of those times, it was hella fun. Hella fun, man. So that was the first questions episode. It was episode 30. Episode 34 was Mark Rob's first episode when he came on to talk about Kendrick. 36 is when I finally manned up and explained what happened, that I lost my job, and I've never re-listened to that episode for sure. So I'd be interested to hear what 2017 Kellen sounds like compared to 2024 Kellen, especially when I had just lost my job. So I'd be really interested to see how that turned out. Episode 38 was the greatest MCs of all time, the ever-evolving list. I think what we've did recently is Eminem is still firmly at 5. I have the list. Why don't I just go check it? Hold on. Where are my Google Docs? Podcasting 101, folks. Podcasting 101. Because I'm pretty sure... MCs of all time. So... yeah. So... the current list, the top 10 is Royce da 5'9", who I moved up from honorable mention to number 10 because I just love Royce, man. He just makes me so happy to listen to him rap. And he's one of those MCs that makes me want to rap, and he rarely puts out a bad verse. Don't love his vaccine takes, but I love Royce the rapper. So he's 10. Andre's 9. Scarface is 8. Rakim 7. M is 6 now. Yeah, M's 6. B.I.G. is 5. Pac is 4. Kendrick is 3. Pac has moved up. So I'm pretty sure Pac was 5th before. Kendrick is 3. Nas is 2. And Jay is still 1. So, I mean, y'all got the whole episode when Mr. Morale came out about how Kendrick moved up to 3 and how I felt like he deserved it at this point to really qualify himself for the greatest of all time. So I love that I have that whole episode, and it's 3 different parts. First 2 parts were recorded in the car. This is when I switched over to recording on the phone. Last part was recorded in this very basement. Super late. I was super tired as I pushed through the rest of the list. So I just love that I have that list that just ever evolves. Then I had Dad on for the first time on 39. 46 is when I realized that Barack Obama follows me on Twitter, which coined the name the Barack Obama Approved World's Greatest Podcast. Let me go check, make sure that nothing weird happened, that I successfully cultivated Barack Obama as my friend. Yes, it even says you follow each other. So that's right. The Barack Obama Approved World's Greatest Podcast still exists. It still exists because Barack still follows me. Still the greatest president of my lifetime. Yeah, I said it. So what? What else? Oh, 48 was Daughters, Dads, and Disney. That was, except Mark Rob doesn't have daughters or dads, but he talked a little bit about Disney. That was the first episode with Eric and Lamb and Mark Rob all together. The only other time we all 4 were together on this pod was when I still have this huge recording that we just did shooting the shit, and I used that and turned it into a pod. Again, that was one of the struggle bus episodes where it was like, well, I need content, but I don't feel like recording. I guess I'll put out this old thing I have of us talking. And I'm pretty sure I still have time from that to still use if I wanted to. And then I did the same thing with Mark Rob. So 2 of the episodes weren't true, 3. Because the episode we talked about, we compared Kendrick's Good Kid, Bad City to Because of the Internet. That was It's Like a Podcast or Whatever show that I ported over. and then the other episode with the Brain Trust with all four of us, and then there's an episode with me and Mark Rob where we were just kind of talking about different things that I decided to use. It wasn't cutting room stuff. It just didn't fit anything. I don't remember what we were doing. I just had all this audio to use, so I used it. So sue me. It got me to 215 episodes. Who cares? I don't care. It'll be all right. Episode 50 was Angel's first time on the show. She was just on the pod last episode talking about the greatest female MCs. I appreciate her coming on and being a part of that and me finally getting that done because that's something I've wanted to do for the last couple of years where I wanted to talk about all the best female MCs because I wanted to give them their due. I barely did on the regular list other than Missy. So I wanted to make sure I gave them their just due. 63 was the first self-care episode where I came on and just really talked about my state of mental health and how I was doing. And it was really cathartic. And again, used the pod as therapy, but it set the trend together where I'm able to do the self-care episodes. And then moving forward, it's something I want to carry on to the Hyphen Universe show where I'll spend 20 minutes. I'd like to do it honestly, like maybe once every 3 months, and if the pod's consistent, once every 3 months, I like to sit down and just be like, "This is a mental health check episode," and just kind of share how I'm feeling, and then ask other people to share how they're feeling, and just put it out there in the universe. No pun intended. I'd really like to do that. So that concept's coming over to Hyphen Universe show. Then on top of that, 64 was the first emergency pod, which is when the when Pusha T dissed Drake and everybody was losing their minds. You were hiding a child, and I was like, Mark Rob, we got a pod. And I hopped on my iPad and we did the Skype thing, man, and our first emergency pod. There was 2 other emergency pods. Second one was after Myles Garrett beat the hell out of that trash Steelers quarterback with his helmet. So I was all for it at the time. I was like, oh God, this is horrible. And nobody even cared like a week later. And then the other time was when they wouldn't play in the bubble because there was more police killings. And they were protesting another innocent black life lost, essentially. So they walked off, and then everybody thought for a minute that the bubble was going to crash. Everybody's going to go home. Nobody want to be there, and that's what me and Mark Rob feared. So, yeah, we hopped on and we talked about that. So that was our third emergency pod. I don't know what it would take for us to do emergency pod now, but it would have to be pretty big. But we don't take that phrasing lightly. So if I hit Mark Rob with the words emergency pod on this, it's something that needs to be said right now. Right now. Then Derek came on episode 90. My guy Derek Ferguson, who passed away in 2020. Have a whole episode dedicated to him. It's later on the list, 187, talking about our first interactions and why he meant so much to me and how much I missed him. Still miss him to this day. And he came on and I got to tell him how much he inspired me in a lot of ways and how proud I was of his work and just how great of a person he turned out to be. And he just brushed it all aside and tried to turn it back around on me, man. But 90 is a great one. 90 is absolutely great. Of course, 100, it's the 100th episode. That was fun to record because it was my 100th episode, man. It was like that was like 2018, I think, when I did 100. So, yeah, it was probably 2018 when I did 100. Got to 100, and it was a proud moment, man. It was a really proud moment. So it still makes me smile year to year, obviously. And then 200's on the list too because they are the anniversary episodes. So 50 with Angel, 100 and 200. They're all on here because they're the benchmarks of how far the pod has came over the course of these 8 years. 115, I talked about September 11th and how that felt at the time, and then looking back on it all these years later, that was very I don't want to say it was I enjoyed doing that episode because I never have really gotten to share my feelings on it, and being able to talk about such a tragic event in American history the way I did. I'm really glad I got to do that one. And again, Mark Robb, I'm sorry for the catch the show ad in the middle with the toilet flushing. I didn't think about it. I may have taken it out. I may have taken it out by now, but I know you weren't a fan of it then. 118 is when I talked about religion because we had started going to the Catholic church we go to now. Angel's Catholic, Aaliyah's Catholic. I am not, but almost every Sunday we go to our St. Mary's Church, Catholic Church in Star City here in Morgantown, and we attend church. And Father DeBacco, who I talked about on that episode, he did church on Sunday, knocked it out of the park. Man is a beast, and the first person who still to this day, like, I don't want to say religious leader, but the first priest, pastor, priest or pastor, that works, who's ever gotten through to me with their sermons because it's so based on real life and applying it to what's happening in the world. And it also comes from a place of love and caring and appreciation versus it being like hellfire and brimstone if you do anything wrong as a Catholic, which doesn't truly apply to me because I'm not Catholic, but obviously I attend the church, so I tend to take the priest word to heart. And the current guy, he's a nice guy. He doesn't do it for me. He's a nice guy, but Father DeBacco, you're dope, man. You're dope, and you're just amazing priest. Yeah, but I got to talk about religion and what it meant to me and everything I've learned over the years. 121 through 129 was guest month, where that was October, where I had a guest on like every single episode. Had a couple repeats in there. There's another one. The episode with me and Ed Brown on it. That was the episode we recorded back in 2007, just bullshitting on a Sunday afternoon. And I put that out because I literally was sitting there like, I don't have a guest. What am I going to do? And Ed came through for me. So that's another episode that wasn't truly recorded in the moment as a Hyphen Nation episode that I just kind of repurposed. 137, Devil Wears Prada commentary with Angel. It's fantastic because, one, you get to listen along with the movie as it plays in the background, and then you get our little comments, man. And I re-listened to that one at least twice. I really like that episode, but I love The Devil Wears Prada. So there's that part. Black Enough Mountain was 149, episode almost that that made me want to quit the pod, and then I should have never released 150 as is. Then from there, it gets kind of sketchy, man. Like 161 was cool with Ethan Strauss. That was the biggest guest to date on the pod, so to speak. Yeah, like Mark. I don't know if it was Mark Robb or me. I want to say it's Mark Robb who's talking to Ethan. His book about the Golden State Warriors that just came out. Me, Mark, and George have read it for the pod. And we reached out. I was like, hey, you want to come on our pod? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, I can record during the day. And it's like, my schedule's already out. I can't get off work. And so George and Mark Robb held me down, man, and interviewed Ethan. And they did an amazing job. So I love that episode, even though I couldn't be a part of it. Because one, Ethan Strauss to this day is the biggest guest Hyphen Nation has ever gotten. And then two, the fact that my friends took time out of their days to make time for Ethan Strauss so they could talk to him. It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. 162 was right after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery had been murdered. So I'm proud of that episode too, because I was so mad and so angry and so upset. And I had to get those feelings out because I couldn't get them out anywhere else. I had no other. It's one thing to send messages about it to your friends and stuff, but I really just need to get out my rage. And that's exactly what I did on that episode. And I got compliments on that as well. So I appreciate it. 183, man. No name Tim, man. Tim Williams. He came on the pod, and me and Tim been friends for years, man. And when we finally linked up, we had such a good time, man. Like, again, me and Tim have known each other for years and have often shared messages to each other on social media and have seen each other in public and been respectful. But after that pod, I truly can say that Tim is my friend. So that changed a lot of stuff. And that was an amazing time as well. A couple more, man. 186 about Brooklyn. Brooklyn passed away in 2020. We had him put to sleep. And he was our dog from 2006 till 2020, man. So RIP Brooklyn, man. And then 187 was about Derek. 204 finally. Took me 204 episodes, but I finally got Matt on the podcast when he came in from New Zealand. And we had a great episode. So all of those episodes were so good. But I truly appreciate y'all for taking time to check out those episodes. Or if you don't want to do that, or no, sorry, I lost my train of thought, for checking out those episodes or any episode of Hyphenation. I always say I appreciate each and every one of y'all that listen to my pod, because it means the world that y'all would sit through my rambling, especially for all these episodes. I really do appreciate it, though. It's amazing. So what's next? Well, Mark Rob wanted me to tell y'all that I'm working on an album. The album's called Hyphen. It's going to come out in March. Still got some little bit of tweaks here and there to fix, but it's going to happen. It's in the works. It's mostly done. It's going to be 11 tracks, and it's going to be my first album in 10 years. So Hyphen's coming. I'm so excited. I got back to music. Thank you, TikTok, for getting me back into rapping. I might also be having a Nerd Fresh EP coming out soon. We recorded the first Nerd Fresh song together a few weeks ago. I almost said Mark Rob. Me, Mischievous, CFX, Amasa Longman, and Anthony was there. It was a great time. So more music's coming. The album, obviously. Going to still be doing YouTube over on Hyphen Universe. Going to be doing some streaming still. Probably recording some video games too, because I'm really loving just doing the voiceover and sitting here locked in with the mic and really playing the games. I know that it's not the ideal streamer be on camera thing, but I don't care. If y'all dig it, y'all dig it. And I dig doing this. So I'm going to be doing that. And then outside of all that, I'm going to be spending time with my family, man. I'll definitely be spending time with my family. So speaking of which, I got to go get Aaliyah from gymnastics. Like, she gets done in 21 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and take that as my cue to say, you've been listening to Hyphen Nation, the Barack Obama approved world's greatest podcast. Brought to you by me, Kellen Conley, a.k.a. B Hyphen. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so at BHyphen, BHYPHEN at gmail.com, or on social media at BHyphen on Twitter, the BHyphen on Instagram, Hyphen Universe on Facebook. Or if you want to go through Hyphen Podcast Group, you can do so. You can do so with Hyphen Podcast Group at gmail.com, at Hyphen Pie Group on Twitter, Hyphen Podcast Group on Instagram, or Facebook. You can find Hyphen Nation on any podcast listening platform. All 215 episodes of bangers. You can find them and listen to them. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate it 5 stars. Leave a comment. I'll read it on the Hyphen Universe show. I don't care. This show's over, but we moving on, and that's okay. So if there's any podcast, if you can't find Hyphen Nation on your favorite podcast listening platform, please take the time to let me know so I can fix it, or any of the other great shows Hyphen Podcast Group brings to you. With that being said, the power of positivity is real. Get that negativity out of your life, no matter what it may be, no matter what you have to do. You got to do you for the last time. Try to have genuine interactions with people. You never know what the next man or woman or they is going through. so your kind words could save their life or someone else's. Give people their flowers while they're still here. That's also important. Make sure you tell them how much they mean to you, because you never know when's their time to go. With that said, call your mom, call your dad, call your sister, call your brother, hug your kids, kiss your spouse, tell them how much they mean to you. Call your grandmother, call your aunt, send your cousin a telegram, send carrier pigeon to your aunt. Just let people know how much they mean to you, man. Do it. It feels good. It feels good to do that. I promise. Now, I say all that to say this. This is the last time in Hyphen Nation format you will hear my voice. So again, for 8 years, for 215 episodes, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad I was able to be here. And we have an archive of memories to listen to. Not just those episodes I mentioned, but a whole archive of great stuff and great people who wanted to be a part of this journey. And I hope you'll join me on the next journey. And I hope that Hyphen Nation was able to bring some joy to your life. If so, that's all I care about. Mission accomplished. Not the George W. Bush kind. Otherwise, thank you for allowing me to be here with y'all. I love y'all. I'll see you on the Hyphen Universe show. Good night. Good luck. And I say all that to say this. Thanks, y'all.